It all started a week before the family trip was supposed to happen. Everyone had been excited, planning for months. I could already picture the sun on my face and the sound of the waves as we spent time together. It was supposed to be the perfect getaway, relaxing, fun, and a chance to bond with the family after such a long time apart. I had been counting down the days. Then came the text. My mom had sent it late one night. The trip's postponed. Something came up. At first I thought it was a joke. My mom didn't mess around with something like that. I called her up immediately. Mom, what's going on? You said we were leaving in a few days. Is it canceled? I asked, my voice trembling with confusion and frustration. She hesitated. We've had to reschedule, honey. I'll explain later. The uncertainty gnawed at me as I tried to sleep. My mind was racing and I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. The next morning, I went over to my sister Sarah's place for a quick chat. I needed answers. When I walked in, I saw her sitting on the couch, grinning like she knew something I didn't. The room felt unusually tense, as though she was holding something back. Hey, what's going on with the trip? I asked, trying to keep the edge out of my voice. Sarah looked at me, her eyes sparkling with a hint of mischief. What do you mean? It's been delayed, hasn't it? Yeah, but that's not what I mean, I said, my frustration building. Why was it delayed? I need to know what's happening. She leaned back, a smirk spreading across her face. Oh, it wasn't postponed for everyone? Just for you? My mind reeled. I felt my chest tighten, unsure whether to be angry or laugh at her absurdity. What do you mean? You've got to be kidding me. Sarah's grin widened as she reached for her phone, tapping a few times before handing it to me. There on the screen was a text from my mom. We're leaving on the 25th, but it's only for Sarah and me. We're taking a different trip now. I stared at the message, unable to believe what I was seeing. But, what about me? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. I thought we were all going. What's going on? She just looked at me, her smirk softening into a playful smile. Oh, honey, you've been a little difficult lately. Mom and I thought you might need some time to reflect. So, we rescheduled the family trip for you, just not right now. I couldn't speak for a moment. The whole situation felt surreal, like a bad dream I couldn't wake up from. I thought I'd been close with my family, but this felt like a betrayal. So, I'm being punished? I asked, more hurt than angry. What did I do wrong? Sarah shrugged nonchalantly. It's not really a punishment. Just a little space. We wanted you to have time to think about things. Like how you've been acting lately. I wanted to shout, to demand answers, but something in me stopped. There was this deep, uncomfortable feeling in my gut. Sarah had always been the more free-spirited one, the troublemaker. But this was different. She was in on something I couldn't quite figure out. Fine, I said, standing up. My voice was cold now, controlled. But don't think I'll forget this. As I walked out, I could hear Sarah's laughter echo behind me. She'd always loved the game of pushing my buttons, but this was something else entirely. I didn't know it yet, but that was just the beginning. The trip wasn't the real reason they were keeping me away. There was something bigger, something more personal, and I was about to find out just how deep the secret went. The next few days felt like a strange blur. I kept replaying Sarah's words in my mind, trying to make sense of it all. Why would Mom and Sarah deliberately leave me out of the trip? What had I done to deserve that? It wasn't just the trip that stung, it was the way it all felt so calculated. I tried to talk to Mom, but she was always busy or vague when I asked. It's complicated, sweetheart, she'd say. You'll understand soon enough. That did nothing to ease my frustration. In fact, it only made me more paranoid. I had to know the truth. So, a few days later, I called Sarah, hoping to catch her off guard. Sarah, we need to talk, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. There was a pause on the other end before she responded. About what? You still upset about the trip? Yeah, and a whole lot more, I replied, my frustration boiling over. Why are you doing this to me? You're supposed to be my sister. I could almost hear her smile through the phone. Oh, I'm doing this to you because, let's be honest, you've been kind of a pain lately. That hit me like a slap in the face. My heart thudded against my chest as I tried to process what she was saying. A pain? What are you talking about? Sarah sighed, her tone softening just a little. You've been pushing everyone away, acting distant. You've been, well, a little selfish. Mom and I thought maybe you just needed a break from everything. A moment to get your head straight. I was stunned. All these years I thought I was doing just fine, but now Sarah was painting a picture of someone I didn't recognize. You really think that's what this is? You think I need to reflect? Her voice dropped a little, almost like she was letting down a mask. Look, I didn't want to do it this way. But you've been stuck in your own head and sometimes you just don't see it. We're doing this because we love you, even if it doesn't feel like it right now. I felt my throat tighten, the weight of her words pressing down on me. It wasn't anger I was feeling now, it was confusion. I was trying to grasp at something, anything that made sense of this whole mess. But why not just talk to me? Why leave me out of everything? There was a long silence before Sarah spoke again, her voice quieter. We've tried and you've shut us out. I'm sorry if this hurts you, but maybe it's the only way you'll really listen. I hung up the phone, feeling more lost than ever. Maybe Sarah had a point. I had been distant, withdrawn. But I didn't think it was enough to justify this kind of treatment. There had to be more to it. There had to be something they weren't telling me. A few days later, Mom called to tell me the trip was back on, this time for all of us. But the invitation felt different, somehow. It wasn't the same warmth, the same excitement that had filled my heart at the beginning. It felt almost like a forced reconciliation, a way to patch things up after they'd already broken. When I arrived at the airport, Sarah was waiting with a big smile, her eyes gleaming. Yeah, I guess so. We walked toward the gate together, but even though we were all heading to the same destination, the tension between us felt like it was growing. I still didn't understand what had happened, what Sarah and Mom had meant by all of it. But I had a sinking feeling in my stomach that this trip wouldn't just be about beaches and sunshine. It was about something deeper, and whether I liked it or not, I was about to find out what that was. The journey ahead was still a mystery, but I knew one thing for sure. My family wasn't just trying to bring me back into the fold. They were preparing me for something. And whatever that was, I wasn't sure I was ready for it. The flight felt longer than usual. I sat by the window, staring out at the clouds, but my mind wasn't on the horizon. It was on everything that had happened. The strange way Sarah had spoken to me, the cryptic messages, the sudden shift in the family dynamic, it all felt like there was a bigger story unfolding and I was just a bystander. Mom sat a few rows ahead, buried in a book, and Sarah was next to me, fidgeting with her phone. Her energy felt off, more tense than usual. I wanted to ask her more questions, to confront her about everything, but something in my gut told me I wasn't going to get the answers I was looking for, not yet. We landed in the small coastal town where we were supposed to have the family vacation, but it didn't feel like a vacation at all. The place was beautiful, no doubt, but it was overshadowed by the sense of unease that had settled over me. I could feel the weight of the unspoken words, the tension simmering beneath the surface. As we made our way to the rental house, I noticed how Sarah and Mom kept exchanging glances. It was subtle, but I caught it. My heart started to race as I realized just how much was being kept from me. We arrived at the house, a cozy, charming place tucked away in the woods. It was exactly the kind of spot we would have picked for a family getaway, but this time, it felt like a stage set for something I wasn't prepared for. As soon as we walked in, Mom turned to me, her face softening. Look, I know this trip hasn't started the way you imagined. But we really want you to relax. Let's just take it easy and enjoy some time together. I nodded, but I could feel the distance between us. It wasn't just physical, there was an emotional gap that hadn't been there before. I could see the way Sarah was watching me from across the room, her eyes narrow, like she was waiting for something to happen. That night, after we had dinner and I was sitting by the fire with a glass of wine, Mom pulled me aside. She had that serious look on her face, the one that told me this wasn't just about a trip anymore. Can we talk? She asked softly. I nodded and followed her out to the porch, the cool night air cutting through the heaviness between us. The sound of crickets and rustling leaves was the only noise around us, but it felt suffocating. I know this might seem strange to you and I know you're hurt, Mom started, her voice hesitant. But there's something you need to understand about why we did what we did. I crossed my arms, waiting. I'm listening. She took a deep breath as if trying to find the right words. Sarah and we've been worried about you for a while now. You've been distant, more than usual. We tried to reach out, but you kept pushing us away. We thought maybe you needed space to figure things out on your own, but we were wrong. I felt my chest tighten. You couldn't have just talked to me? You think this whole thing, is the way to help me? Mom winced, but she didn't back down. It wasn't just about you. It was about all of us. We needed to help you see what you weren't seeing, to get you out of your head. You've been bottling up so much, and it's like you've been running away from us, and from yourself. Her words struck deeper than I expected. My anger shifted into something else, something more painful, guilt. I didn't mean to shut everyone out. I've been dealing with so much, and I didn't want to burden you. She reached out and touched my arm, her eyes soft. You're never a burden, sweetheart. But you have to let us in. You have to let us help you. I didn't know what to say. I hadn't realized how much I'd been holding back, how much I'd let slip away. In some ways I had been hiding from them. But in other ways, it felt like they had been hiding from me too. I'm sorry, I said, the words catching in my throat. I didn't know how to talk about everything. But I want to try. Mom smiled faintly and I could see the relief in her eyes. That's all we wanted, honey. Just to know you're ready to be open again. Just as the tension started to ease, I heard Sarah's voice from the doorway. Is everything okay? I nodded, wiping away the tear that had fallen. Yeah, I think so. Sarah stepped outside, her expression unreadable. For a moment we all just stood there, the silence stretching between us. Then, without warning, Sarah spoke again, but her tone was different. It wasn't playful or teasing, it was serious, even a little apologetic. I know I've been hard on you, she said, looking directly at me. But everything I said, it was because I care. I just didn't know how else to get through to you. I didn't know how to respond. The weight of everything, of the secrets, of the tension, of the things we had never said, felt like it was finally coming to light. It was messy, it was painful, but it was real. And in that moment, I realized the trip wasn't just about getting away from our everyday lives. It was about trying to fix what had been broken between us, to heal the wounds we had ignored for too long. But I wasn't sure if I was ready for that yet. There were still so many questions, so much I didn't understand. And whatever was coming next, whatever the real reason for this trip was, I had a feeling it was going to change everything. The next few days passed in a haze. There were moments when I felt like I was finally getting through to my family, like the walls we'd built between us were slowly starting to come down. But then there were other moments when I could still feel the tension lingering just under the surface. It was like everyone was walking on eggshells, trying to act normal when everything felt far from it. Sarah and I had moments where we laughed together like we used to, remembering old memories and jokes that only siblings could share. But then, out of nowhere, the unease would creep in again. A look, a comment, something that made me feel like I was still on the outside, like I was being watched, observed. It was the third night when everything finally came to a head. We were sitting around the dinner table, the usual. I couldn't stop thinking about the conversations I'd had with both Mom and Sarah, about how they'd been worried about me. They kept saying they wanted to help, but I wasn't sure if I believed them anymore. They'd already manipulated me once, kept me out of the trip, and now, what? Were they just trying to fix me? Or was there something else going on? As I pushed around my food, Sarah glanced at me across the table, her eyes studying me with an intensity one hadn't seen before. You okay? She asked casually, though I could tell she was trying to gauge my reaction. I didn't trust myself to answer. I couldn't shake the feeling that she knew more than she was letting on, and I couldn't stand being in the dark any longer. So I decided to confront it. Sarah, what's really going on here? I asked, my voice quieter than I intended, but firm enough that she couldn't ignore it. I'm not stupid. I know this trip wasn't just about getting me to relax or giving me space. There's more to it, and I need to know what it is. The room fell silent. Mom's fork clinked softly against her plate, but she didn't say anything. Sarah, however, didn't flinch. She just sat there, staring at me for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Then finally she spoke. I didn't want to do this like this, but I guess it's time, she said, her voice surprisingly calm. You need to understand why we did what we did. Why I pushed you. Mom didn't want to tell you, but I think you're ready now. I swallowed hard. Something in her tone, something in the way she was looking at me made my heart race. It felt like the ground was shifting beneath me, like I was about to learn something I wasn't prepared for. What do you mean? I asked, my throat dry. Sarah leaned back in her chair, her gaze softening. We've been worried about you for a long time, but it's more than just that. We're not the only ones who are worried. The whole family, everyone who's been close to you. They've seen how you've been changing. And honestly, we thought you needed to wake up. My stomach dropped. What are you talking about? What's wrong with me? Mom finally spoke, her voice filled with a kind of reluctant urgency. Sweetheart, this is hard to say, but you've been spiraling. There's been this shift in you and none of us knew how to reach you. You've been holding on to something and we didn't know how deep it went. I stared at them both, my chest tightening. What shift? What's going on? They exchanged another glance, and I could see the uncertainty in both of their faces. It's not something that's easy to explain, Mom said. But your therapist. Therapist? I interrupted, my mind racing. What are you talking about? Sarah sighed, her eyes darkening. We didn't want to overwhelm you, but we had to involve someone. You've been struggling with more than just the usual stuff. We were trying to protect you, trying to help without making it worse. but you've been ignoring the signs. And it's been going on for a while. I shook my head, trying to process everything. Wait, so you've been talking to my therapist behind my back? You've been planning this? The trip, the whole thing? Sarah looked at me, guilt flashing in her eyes. We didn't know how else to help you. You've been so closed off, so unwilling to face what's going on inside. We just wanted you to see it. We wanted you to understand. Mom's voice softened, almost pleading. We love you. You're our daughter, our sister. But you've been pushing us away for so long, we didn't know what else to do. We didn't want you to drown in all this by yourself. I felt like I couldn't breathe. The weight of everything, all the things I'd been avoiding, was crashing down on me. I felt betrayed but also relieved. There had been something I hadn't been able to name, something I had been running from, but I hadn't realized how much it was affecting me. It had been festering in the background, and I'd been too afraid to confront it. So what now? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. What do you want from me? Sarah reached out and put a hand on mine. We just want you to trust us again. To talk. To let us in. I took a shaky breath, feeling the tears well up in my eyes. I don't know if I can. I don't know how to let go of everything I've been holding on to. You don't have to do it all at once, Mom said, her voice gentle. Just take it one step at a time. We're here for you whenever you're ready. The silence that followed was heavy, but for the first time in a long time, it didn't feel suffocating. It felt like a beginning. I didn't know what the future held, but I was starting to realize something important. Maybe I wasn't as alone as I'd thought. Maybe, just maybe, I could let go of the things that had been holding me back. But that was going to take time. And for the first time, I felt like I might actually be ready to take that first step. The next few days passed in a blur of awkward conversations and small, tentative steps forward. I couldn't shake the feeling that everything had changed, but at least it felt like we were finally moving in the right direction. Every time I spoke to Mom or Sarah, it wasn't perfect, but it was honest. There was no pretending anymore. No acting like things were fine when they weren't. And that, strangely enough, felt like progress. One morning, we decided to go for a walk along the beach. The air was crisp, the sun barely breaking through the clouds. It was the kind of walk we used to take as kids, laughing and joking as we chased each other along the shore. Today, though, it felt different, more somber, but still, there was something about the quiet that felt like a necessary pause. As we walked, Sarah slowed her pace until she was next to me. For a while, we didn't say anything. The sound of the waves crashing against the shore was the only thing breaking the silence. Finally, she spoke, her voice soft. I'm sorry for pushing you away, for not being more upfront with you. I thought I was helping, but I see now that I just made it harder. I stopped walking for a moment, the sand cool beneath my feet. I didn't realize how much I'd shut. Maybe it wasn't all gone, but it felt like I could finally start letting go of it piece by piece. We walked in silence for a while longer, but the silence felt different now. It wasn't awkward or heavy, it was comfortable, the kind of silence that comes with knowing you're no longer hiding from the truth. Later that afternoon, we sat on the porch of the rental house, the three of us huddled under a blanket, watching the sunset. It was beautiful, the sky a soft mix of pink and gold. I had always loved sunsets, but this one felt special, like it marked the end of something painful and the beginning of something new. I think this is what I needed, I said, my voice quiet but sure. Mom and Sarah looked at me, and I could see the same understanding in both their eyes. They didn't say anything, but they didn't need to. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. Not just physically on this trip, but emotionally. I wasn't alone in this anymore. I had my family back in a way I hadn't realized I'd lost them. It wasn't perfect, and I knew there would still be challenges ahead, but I felt like we were finally moving forward together. As the sun dipped below the horizon, I took a deep breath and smiled. Maybe I hadn't figured everything out yet, but I was ready to start. Ready to face what had been holding me back. Ready to trust again. And for the first time in a long time, that felt enough.